Welcome to the Ask Dr. Deanna show. I'm Dr. Deanna Holgren, your host. Join me weekly as I cover various health-related lifestyle medicine topics that you get to request. This show is for anyone who wants to proactively improve their health position. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me today. I am very excited to share some information with you about a topic that is one that I'm unfortunately too familiar with, leaky gut. And leaky gut is something that has a topic that has come around really probably in the last maybe 5 to 10 years, I would say, in medicine. And it is something that can be quite devastating actually, and can cause a lot of issues. It can cause a lot of issues with your health, from anything from just general fatigue to infections to weight issues. There's just a whole conglomeration of symptoms that people can have, including even issues with autoimmune diseases. And so I think today what I want to do, I think I want to start off with a little bit of my own story with leaky gut before I really launch into what is it exactly, what causes it, and then what we can do about it. Those are the things that I'm kind of going to focus on today. So again, my story actually starts probably somewhere in childhood. And, I grew up in an area of southeastern Ohio. I was a very, very poor area. And it was an area that probably didn't have the best eating habits either. Okay. I would definitely say that. So sometimes I kind of jokingly refer to it as southeastern Ohio gut rot, which is a little bit of what I probably had. And basically, I had a gut that just wasn't a happy gut at all. And a lot of things can happen because of that. By the time I went to medical school, I was trained very heavily in the low-fat cardiac diet, which is an absolute no-no. It's a diet that is truly going to cause disease. I am the person who, at that point in my life anyway, was somewhat of an all or none type of personality. And so I decided to eliminate pretty much all of the fat from my diet. Not a smart move at all, you guys, okay? And by eliminating all the fat, what happened, there are certain fats that are essential. They're called essential fats. It's essential that we get them in our diet because our body can't make them. And so we have to eat these essential fats, omega-3s, things like that. And so I had eliminated all of the fat from my diet, and it doesn't take one much time to figure out if you eliminate the fat from your diet, you are then basically eating carbs and sugar. And so really, when I was in med school, we were primarily trained just to look at the fat. And there were all kinds of low fat this, low fat that. So they were doing a lot with hydrogenated fats, et cetera. And what really happened was I kind of threw myself into some autoimmune issues because I wasn't getting these essential fats, which help reduce inflammation in the body, but specifically help reduce inflammation in the gut. I also had developed this syndrome, if you will, where I thought I was getting food poisoning about every 6 months. And I ended up having every test imaginable, but I would be in the middle of, pretty much anywhere, and would be hit with this incredible intestinal pain, GI pain that was really severe cramping. And then I would likely pass out because I basically would drop my blood pressure really low. And then I would come to, and I would have massive projectile vomiting and then diarrhea. So you can imagine this was actually happened some in my teen years as well. And then all through my 20s, this would happen about every 6 months. Devastating, right? It was something that, was just unreal. And again, I had every test. Is this a cardiac thing? Is this some sort of seizure? What exactly is happening? And everything would always come back negative. And I truly thought, well, I must just be getting food poisoning every 6 months. How can this be possible? Well, now I know. Okay, so this went on from really about the time that I was probably about 16 until I was maybe 32. That's a long, uh, time period of consistency. And at 32, I discovered the impact of diet in one's health and also the impact of essential fatty acids, omega 3s. And I've not had that happen since then. Okay. So for 20 years, I've not had this issue happen anymore. And if I look back on that and go, okay, what on earth was that? What happened? Now, as I have, just studied and I just continue to read on a regular basis, and constantly learning new things, reading research articles, etc. I discovered functional medicine as well. What I discovered is that really what was going on there was actually this whole concept of the leaky gut. It contributed to the arthritis that I ended up developing. It contributed to some other issues as well. And so basically, when I started eating a cleaner diet and then also adding in those omega 3s specifically, that is when I no longer had this issue. And so let's talk about what is it? What was going on exactly? Well, basically, a leaky gut is this inflamed intestine. Okay. So it's an inflamed gut, and you basically end up with increased permeability of the gut or the lining of the gut. Well, you guys all know what's inside a gut, right? Okay, so that's where our waste is, our toxic byproducts. This is the disgusting call today. But so toxic byproducts in the gut. If the membrane, the lining of the gut becomes more permeable, then things can move across that membrane sort of in both directions. Okay, that's this whole concept of leaky gut. And when that happens, so you think about like when I said that I would get this intense, GI cramping, and then I would pass out. The reason I would pass out, I thought was maybe from the pain, but I think that it was really more that the gut was leaky, and so all of the fluid was basically rushing into my GI system, and then I would end up, again, having this massive vomiting, diarrhea, whatever. So that's kind of the concept. It doesn't always happen that way. For some people, it's just a mild leaky gut where they're just kind of mildly leaking things out. And maybe they are having chronic infections, allergies, fatigue, foggy brain, autoimmune issues, joint pain, all of these things that can happen because of this whole phenomenon. So it's this, when you look at the cells that line the intestines, they should be really tight together, and have these little tight junctions or these gap junctions that are in between the cells. There really shouldn't be much of a gap there. And what happens when you have an inflamed gut, there's inflammation there and the cells don't fit tightly. And basically you end up having these toxins, move across this membrane. It becomes more permeable, if you will. So that's sort of what it is. Well, how does that happen? What did I do to myself to get this? Okay. How do we cause this? And it's basically a result of oftentimes poor diet. It's a processed food diet. It's foods coming out of a bag, a box, a drive-through window, all those sort of things. So a lot of chemicals in the diet. And you guys have heard me talk so much about how important it is to eat whole foods, nutrient dense, clean, because it does matter here. Okay. It absolutely does make a difference here. And so this is something that basically develops because of what we're being exposed to. The other thing that we see kind of coming into play at that point in time would be along with the processed foods, the artificial ingredients. That's when a lot of hydrogenated fats came along, which were very inflammatory. We know that those cause heart disease, inflammation in the blood vessels. Well, sure, they can cause inflammation in the gut as well. So the hydrogenated oils would have been an issue there. But then also as glyphosate or Roundup started coming into play, that is, again, a chemical that is getting into the gut and is going to cause some inflammation, is going to disrupt the gut microbiome, all of the healthy bugs that are supposed to, live and function and make us, healthy and happy in the gut. So that's going to be impacted as well. So it's really a product of poor diet, poor nutrition, chemicals in the gut, causing a lot of this inflammation. So it's an inflamed product. And so that's how it happens. The good news is, I've gone 20 years without having that episode. And if, I've had people come to me in the practice, specifically for this because they are finding themselves landing in the emergency room, which for severe cases, that is what usually ends up happening. They end up in the emergency room because they are now dehydrated. They lose all their potassium, and so they're incredibly weak from that, and they just don't really know. And quite honestly, the cramping is so intense that even the pain will take them to the emergency room as well. So the treatment for it, okay, is first of all, diet. Okay, it is getting rid of the offending agent, getting rid of, the artificial foods, the fake foods, all of those foods that are loaded with chemicals. And the chemicals, sometimes you see them, on the labels, but sometimes you don't. So when you think of a label that you're reading, you'll see a lot of artificial ingredients that are additives. Those are preservatives, artificial flavors, artificial colors. Again, that's chemical. Okay. Most of us could easily say, yeah, it's probably not a good idea to eat chemicals, right? But that is what is in the majority of processed foods. That's the reason that a box of cereal is still good 10 years from now. That's some of that. So looking at that, from a food standpoint, but then there are also things like glyphosate that are not going to appear on the label. Glyphosate has been mass sprayed on crops, even the ones that are not genetically modified. It still gets sprayed on that as a desiccant or a drying agent. There's going to be a residue of that glyphosate that is then going to find its way into that grain, into that product, and ultimately into our food supply. If you have it once, it's probably not going to cause a great deal of harm. But if you love that food and you eat it over and over and over every single day, same food, then chances are you're going to accumulate this stuff. And again, it's going to cause more inflammation in the gut because now you've disrupted the microbiome, the gut bugs that should be in there. So the first step is elimination. It is getting rid of the things that are sending us in this direction with this inflammation. The second step is to basically replenish the gut, the microbiome. So get the good, healthy microbes back in there. Bacillus coagulans is a really great one to be thinking about here. And then also, we want to decrease that inflammation. So this is where omega-3s come in. Omega-3s were absolutely a game changer for me. And I still take omega-3s every single day to this day. And the reason is that quite honestly, I would be afraid not to take them at this point. I've gone 20 years without having this horrible syndrome happen to me. And so when you look at the omega-3s, what does it do? The omega-3s help to decrease inflammation, of course. We know that they're fantastic for the gut. We know they're fantastic for the brain. We know they're wonderful for the eyes. Just so many incredible benefits to omega-3s. And basically what's happening there is they do help to decrease the inflammation in the lining of the gut. But I believe it goes a step further. And I think that they're really helping to solidify that membrane or to make it more secure, less permeable, so that we are having less, of this, leakage of toxins into the system. So omega-3s are a critical component. I've also found that some people do really, really great with glutamine. Glutamine is something that you'll see with a lot of digestive type of supplements, especially in the functional medicine realm. Certain, GI type products or whatever will have some glutamine in there. You can also get glutamine by itself, glutamine powder. Sometimes certain protein shakes might have glutamine in it if it's designed to help the gut specifically. So glutamine is something that can be used. And then also, as I mentioned earlier, the probiotics become a critical component of this. So why is this important? Okay, well, obviously, clearly it's important if you are having this kind of syndrome, like what I've experienced, or like, what several of my patients have also experienced. But it's also critical because this is definitely a player in the autoimmune world. When you look at what is driving all of this autoimmune disease, all of these issues with inflammatory arthritis, with Parkinson's disease, with even autoimmune diabetes. I mean, there are so many autoimmune conditions, thyroid, that we struggle with today that are part of our everyday life, and this is part of it. Okay, because quite honestly, when you have things leaking across this membrane and into the body, the immune system goes a little wild. Okay, it goes a little wild because it recognizes that as as an offending agent, and then it's kind of just sets this whole attack mode that starts, and the next thing you're thrown into an autoimmune condition. So that's why it becomes so important, and that's also part of the reason when we clean this up and we go to work on the gut, that we see a lot of people see tremendous improvements in the area of autoimmune issues. So that's really it. So that's the leaky gut story. It's a big one, okay, and I hope that this has been helpful. I'm sure that somebody out there is going to go, oh my gosh, that's what I'm experiencing. And then you'll have some tools to kind of help you along the way with reversing that and just basically healing up your gut. And that's always the amazing thing to me. The more I know, the more I learn about our bodies, about the human body, the more fascinated I am. The fact that so many times, if you give the body what it is missing or what it needs, the body does have the ability to do repair work. And that's exciting to me. Okay. That's part of the reason that I do what I do, because I know that the body has the ability to do some repair work. So I hope you'll join me next time. On our next episode, I am going to be talking a little bit about stress reduction. I'm going to talk about some adaptogenic herbs and some of my favorite things to help manage stress, deal with stress, and just things that I will even recommend to patients, to help basically just get through their day and to be happy, healthy, and not crazy on the stressed out bandwagon. So hope you'll join me for that. Thanks so much for tuning in today, and have a fantastic week. I hope you enjoyed that episode. For more information, visit me at deannaholdren.com. Find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Dr. Deanna Holdren. I really want to hear from you, so message me. I love taking your messages and creating topics from them. Please rate, review, subscribe, and share my show with those who have an interest in health and wellness. Thank you for tuning in, and see you next week.